Imagine you are sitting in a car park late at night. It is raining. In the distance you see a man under a street light. He's talking to someone you can't see. You wonder if anyone else is there. Maybe he's just a crazy guy talking to the dark. As you ponder, you realize he's gone. You suddenly hear rustling in your back seat. You don't want to turn around. You may be looking through the spooky window.
Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of Spooky Window. My name's Belle.
And I'm Tom.
And today we are going to discuss the mythological creature that we know kind of a bit more about because we're from Australia. We're going to talk about the Bunyip, which is one of the many wild and wonderful creatures that are talked about in Australia through Aboriginal folklore.
Yeah, so it started off as a sort of Aboriginal creature, folk creature, I guess, so part of their mythology. It means like, similar to the meaning of demon or evil spirit.
That's something I did notice when I was reading was that they sort of said evil spirit, but that's the only close translation we have because there's not really a direct translation.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what the word bunyip really means. It has a bunch of different names in a few different dialects of Aboriginal languages. So there's about 260 different languages in the Aboriginal, indigenous tribes.
Every tribe has a sort of a different dialect and language, so there's a lot of nuance in everything.
Yeah, so in that area there's like bunyips, there's banyams, there's banyaps. So it's sort of like a very similar word, but all meaning the same thing.
Yeah, so before we go too further though, like paying all respects to the Aboriginal people and their myths and legends, we're going to approach this as respectfully as possible, and hopefully we do it's okay. But yeah, this is what we decided to do. It's going to be Australia Day next week, I think, and that's why we decided to do an Australian one. So yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
We'll start with what we gathered on what a bunyip was or is, essentially, from the information we gathered.
Yeah, so in the Aboriginal legend of it is that it's, as we've said, it's a devil evil spirit. It has a lot of power, like a lot of magical power. If you cross it, it can do a great many things to you. It can turn you to stone. It can turn you into animals.
It can eat you alive.
It can eat you alive. It can cause droughts and floods and all sorts of things. It's almost like it's similar to our last episode when we were talking about skinwalkers. It has to do a lot of stuff that those like evil shamans can do in other cultures.
Yeah, and the descriptions of bunyips vary depending on who's seen it, where it's seen. It is mostly seen on sort of the lower east coast of Australia. That's kind of where everything is, sort of in Victoria, New South Wales. Yeah,
so Victoria, southern New South Wales and South Australia as well.
And that's kind of where all the accounts we can get are from. And most of the accounts are from the 1800s as well, which is very interesting. Considering that was the time the bunyips were.
You don't really see too many past the 20th century.
No, so which we'll touch on, but there is a theory behind that, which is very interesting. What we do have with accounts is there are at least 9 variations of what the bunyip looks like. So there are 9 different types that kind of.
At least.
And
we only have a few here.
Yeah, and what we do know is they are mostly put around swamps and billabongs and lagoons, so they're obviously known as more aquatic creatures rather than land-faring.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that the bunyip is, even in all that mythology, is that they're water-based creatures. They live in the water. They're not like yowies that live in the bush, like away from water. They're specifically water-based spirits or creatures.
And there are a few things when we were looking it up, people trying to put yowies and bunyips together, and Tom and I had a bit of a chuckle about that because we were like, they're two completely different things. Like, it doesn't work.
Like, if you actually read in the mythology of them, they're very different things. And it's even a little bit like, if you're trying to put these things together, you're obviously not
paying attention.
You're not really paying attention. It's a bit disrespectful to the myths, yeah. Because you can see them pushing like stories of Quinkins into the Yowie myth. Yowie talks about Yowies and other things like Potkaruks and Dimensionteries and stuff, like other little creatures that are from Aboriginal myth that are supposed to populate the land.
Yes.
And they're very different to what Yowies are. And it's
kind of frustrating seeing it because it's like, come on. Like, it's not just one creature. There's many of them. Don't make them all one.
Yeah, it simplifies the mythology way too much.
Exactly. So we've got, from these 9 variations, we've got things like a giant starfish, a black crying seal, a swimming dog, and creatures with a long neck and small head. So, like, a wide variety of different things that people have seen.
Yeah. There was another one in what did I say? Brungle Bridge. In Gundagai. They saw a massive black dog with flaming eyes. And it had a fixed, sort of like a fixed grin with its teeth.
Yeah, that's... Again, I feel like that's my catchphrase is, that's unnerving.
And, that one attacked a woman and then jumped in the water. And nearby there was a dead man who'd been camping there. And he seemed to have been attacked by an animal and been killed by the animal.
So they can be quite violent creatures, the bunyips. I think there's 2 that we've mentioned that are probably the most descriptive. One is between 4 and 6 feet long with a bulldog head, big ears, no tails, and whiskers, and it has a shaggy coat. I read that and I immediately thought of the Chimera from Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, which one?
The girl and the dog one, the horrifying one.
The Nita.
Yeah, and I read that and went, no, that's just scary. And if you can Google Bunyip and you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, you will see it and you will know exactly what I mean.
So then, just imagine it swimming around.
Ugh. And then the other one is between 5 and 15 foot long with a maned neck. And the neck's about 3 foot long. Many folds of skin like a horse or emu-like head, large ears, small tusks, and a tail like a horse. Which is...
So we have 2 descriptions. One has no tail, one has a tail like a horse.
Yes. But they both seem to have flippers or fins. Most of them eat crayfish, which would make sense because they're in swamps and things. Unless they're eating humans, because there are accounts of them eating humans as well.
Yeah.
Which is...
There was even an Aboriginal guy who went to a newspaper to show them the scars in his back when a bunyip attacked him. So there's... Yeah. Whatever it is, it was very real and alive to the people of those times.
Yes. But there's a few legends that go with it. Some of the Aboriginal tribes believed that it would only attack if you took more fish than what you were supposed to from the water.
So that's cool. It's like the environmental. There's that environmental part. You have those myths in Native American legend where it's all about being one with nature and making sure you don't take more than your fair share. Because you need to... They're very, very aware that it's not unlimited resources. So this is one of those legends of making sure that, the next generation has fish in the river as well.
Yeah, and it's very common in Aboriginal myths and culture as well, as to look after the environment, look after the area you're in. It's a very strong part of their culture there, so it's not surprising at all. And the other one, I remember as the warning it was to stop the women and children going too close to the water, which would make sense because, if you fell in, there were crocodiles, Like,
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
not
the
so much
crocodiles weren't
down-
scary enough.
Not so much down like down south in
yeah.
Australia, because they don't really go past Rockhampton.
Yeah. So they needed something like, we're from Queensland, so it's quite warm here. So like, you sort of go Queensland up, and like going, oh, don't go in the water. There's crocodiles, makes sense. But if you go down and more south, they're not there. So having a bunyip instead.
Yeah,
But
not really sure. Maybe it was like a. Then it could have been like a myth that went down from crocodile-infested areas. They went down south slowly, and like people started talking about this thing they saw up there that people were talking about up there, where they were these horrible things that could jump out and ambush you if you went too close to the water. So
yes, definitely.
people in the south who might not have seen it correctly before came up with this myth and said, "Oh, it looks like a swimming dog." No, it looks like a giant starfish. No, it's got a long neck and a small head.
And they're all sitting there going, "This one, it's this one." But I think a lot of them are also, like, the descriptions are very location based. So this location in particular will have accounts of this one. And this location over here will have an account of this one. Or even multiple accounts of whichever thing it is, depending on the location of that as well, which I find very interesting. But yeah, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. I was reading one description, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it made me think like a gigantic toad with an emu-shaped head.
That doesn't... The toad doesn't even... The toad's head is part of its body.
Yeah, so like...
How?
But yeah, that freaks me out.
A lot of the ones where it's like, oh, it's in the water and it has a long neck and it has this tiny body or something. I was like, it reminded me of the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, quite a few of them are very similar to the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. And
or just sea serpents in general, really.
Yes. There are a lot of different sea serpents and stuff. Well, there's one, like, unrelated to bunyips, but there's one, there was a photo of one in, I'm pretty sure it was in Australian waters, that big, like, snake thing with the boat. I can't remember what it's called. And there's so many weird things.
And, like, if you just look at the still image, you think that, like, it could be, like, some weed or something on the ground. But there's actually a video connected to that one.
Really?
And you can see it swimming around. It's like, holy crap, what is that?
I don't like the ocean. I don't like bodies of water. You never know what's underneath the bodies of water. Like, no thanks. So, but all up. So, the bunyip is represented as uniting the characteristics of a bird and an alligator then. So, you'll have a head resembling an emu with a bill, or a long bill, or a wide bill, because sometimes they're like platypus bill, which is more of a wide bill.
Yeah.
Lots of like long necks, flippers.
Yeah, just
wild.
Yeah, many different forms.
It's just a lot.
There was one that was, I'm not sure what year it was, but it was in like Melbourne, 18th century sometime, near the Melbourne Customs House. I'm not sure what that is in Melbourne. But like...
If you're from Melbourne and you've heard of it before, you know what that is.
You know exactly where that is, and you know that it's probably not where I'm imagining it was. So I'm imagining like right in the centre of Melbourne, but anyway. So like apparently this, what they described as a gigantic platypus. They never said how big they estimated that platypus to be, but it was big enough that it drew a very large crowd to see this massive gigantic platypus. And 3 people went off on a boat to actually try to catch the dang thing.
Oh my god. Well, see, and for reference, like a platypus is about the size of a cat.
Yeah.
Or smaller. About the average house cat, that's the size of a normal platypus. They're not big.
They're not massive, so it sounds like it was on the other side of the river from the Melbourne Customs House. People at the Melbourne Customs House could see it from the other side of the river and were like, whoa, how big is that? And that thing's huge.
Yeah.
So it sounds pretty big to me.
So there have been times when there have been bones found, which have been confirmed by the local Aboriginal tribes, that's bunyip bones. but could be or have been found to be extinct megafauna, which is something Australia had a lot of. I know mostly about Australian megafauna. I'm not sure if it was as popular everywhere else, but we had like giant ass wombats and huge animals. Like you look at it and you look at, say, a kangaroo now, and like a red kangaroo could be 6 foot tall now.
Yeah,
but just like super
twice
size
that tall. They could be twice that tall. Diprotodon, sort of like a giant wombat, sort of not. Was like the size of probably about the size of a rhino.
Oh, man, wombats are not friendly.
And then there was the actual giant wombat, which was probably about the size of a what would it be?
It wasn't as big as a car.
No way.
No.
It was much smaller than the Diprotodon.
It was
It was twice the size of a wombat now, so it's about twice the size of the size of a very large dog.
Like a Great Dane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as a wombat, which...
I remember seeing it was like a fake taxidermy of a giant wombat at the Queensland Museum, and I would have been about like 6. And I've just gone, there were things that like, I was 6, like that thing was looking me dead in the eye. And I didn't go outside at night for like a good 6 months. Because even though I was told by my uncle at the time that they were definitely extinct, I did not trust him. I saw that and I was not okay. So the other thing about bunyips that is quite common is that they have a large roar. So some of the accounts will go through, people never saw them, they just heard them.
Yeah.
Because they have a massive roar that apparently like shakes bottles off shelves and rattles windows and disturbs everything. And
so I suppose it's almost like an earthquake.
yeah, but it's like a big roar. In saying that, I have been out in bushland and heard a male koala roar, and that's pretty terrifying when you don't know what it is.
Yeah, so a lot of Australian animals make some interesting noises, like the koala's mating call. It sounds like it's hooting.
It's so loud.
Like it's a very low-pitched hooting noise that can go on for 2 or 3 minutes, and it just echoes throughout the entire bush.
And even possums, like possums aren't that big, but they've got like this guttural, like, you know how like horses like do the thing, but it's like that, but like it's like that but evil. It's the best way I can figure it. It's terrifying. And it's this tiny creature that if it's at night, you're probably not going to be able to even see it, but you'll hear it pretty well. Oh, they're so loud. So it's not like there aren't terrifying sounds in the bush, which would then argue the fact of, like, if you already lived in the bush and knew that, okay, that's a koala call, that's a possum call, and there's something that is more terrifying than that, is kind of a bit off-putting. Yeah. You just sort of move away. So I think interesting that a lot of the bunyip sightings and noises and stuff came in the 19th century, so 18 sort of times. Which is a lot of white settlers sort of moving in and making farms. Yeah, exactly. So they're going into the bush. They're not sure exactly where they are and what's happening, what the noises are. So they got a bit freaked out. Aboriginals, and it seems to be like very Australian, almost like the taproot of the Australian continent makes practical jokes. It's very easy. Oh, so easy. It's almost second nature to go on with the joke. Yes. So why people go to the Aboriginals and say, hey, I keep hearing this noise, we're freaking out about what is it? And so Aboriginals go, oh, I'm a little bit scared of this thing. Oh, it's a bunyip. Oh, what does it look like? And they always have ideas and say, yeah, it's this. It's this. Does this and crush your bones with its teeth and all this stuff. And, send the white people back even whiter than they were before. And laugh laugh their heads off when they go on. And to be honest, that is still a thing today. Yeah, I've been involved in doing that to people. Like, oh, you're from not from here. I'll just be really careful when you go out bushwalking because of like X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah, like the bunyip could have been the Aboriginal version of the drop bear.
that's probably the drop bear. That is my favourite part. So before COVID, we couldn't travel anywhere. I remember going to an Australian bar when we were overseas, and for some reason there was a European person at the Australian bar, and he made the mistake of saying, "Oh, don't you guys have drop bears?" I distinctly remember 20 people who had not. We were in different parts of the bar. Descend and go, "Oh yeah, man, drop bears." Like my uncle lost a finger. I can show you the photo, and would just
Yeah.
And this is why people don't think Australia is real.
Mm.
It's just we take the piss out of ourselves.
So
Anyway,
yeah, that's one of the possibilities of what bunyips were. It makes sense because of all the different
descriptions,
different things about how much, how the Europeans said, "Oh, Aboriginals are terrified of these things. I wonder what they are." It's like, maybe they weren't that terrified. Maybe they're just having a go at you.
I'm just sitting there going, "You idiot." So we have a few accounts that we managed to find from the 1800s, but from all over actually. It started with Lake Bathurst in 1818, and that was the one you were talking about before, or ones I said before, where people found bones, and the Aborigines said, "Oh, they're bunyip bones."
Yeah, so they found these giant bones, and we're like, "Oh, what the heck are these from?" So I asked the Aboriginals, and they said they belong to Bunyip. And it says there, a word that means devil or evil spirit.
Mm.
So as soon as they brought that to the Aboriginals, they said, "Oh, devil, evil spirits, bad things, be afraid."
Oh no. And then we also have in 1835, William Buckley spent about 30 years with Aboriginals in Victoria, and he actually said he saw bunyips.
Yeah.
And that they were covered in grey feathers and that there was much fear of them, and that they could curse men who interfered in their affairs. He considered killing one for science, but was afraid of its strength and ferocity and knew the natives would kill him in fear of being cursed.
So William Buckley was an escaped convict.
Was it?
Yeah, so he escaped prison with something like 4 other people. They went one way and he didn't like that way, so he went the other way. And he became very respected with the Aboriginal tribes around the place.
Mm.
He even took a wife, or maybe 2. Anyway, so he was very well received by the Aboriginals there.
Mm. So with him going on, "Oh, I've seen this," and led more sort of credence to his tales.
Yeah.
Was that he was quite respected by the community from what we know.
And he knew that if he killed one for science, then, yeah, it says there, they would kill him because you don't mess with the bunyip.
You don't mess with the bunyips. You don't touch them, you don't do it, you just leave them be.
Yeah.
So, and then in 1845, there's a newspaper in Geelong that said that there was a woman killed by a bunyip, and there was an Aboriginal man.
His name was Mumboran.
Mumboran, with deep scars from the bunyip. So it
was seen as like they're a real thing. They're a current thing that's happening.
They're not extinct. They're not this or that. It's an actual thing that's going on.
They're not just an Aboriginal story. They're something real as well. The whole point of that was.
So, and Mumboran described the creature as having the head of an emu with a long beak, which had projections on each side similar to stingray barbs, and that it had serrated edges, which were essentially blades made for stabbing and killing. That's scary.
So I'm not sure if it means that the beak itself essentially looked like a blade that was made for stabbing and slashing, or if it had projections out of it that like a swordfish. Yeah, like a swordfish nose or something.
Yeah, it's hard. Like when you hear and they write down the accounts, there's so many different ways you could take that.
Yeah, but what we know is that there was something in its beak that could stab and slash with its beak.
It also had the bodies and legs of a crocodile, with thick and strong hind legs and the front legs much longer, but just as strong. It had very large claws, and the main way of killing was by grabbing its prey and squeezing, like a death hug. So kind of like crocodiles, because crocodiles have the death roll.
Yeah,
and they grab you and then they roll you until you die.
Very similar to a crocodile in its hunting thing. This next part is a bit different. It swims like a frog in the water, and when it walks on the land, it walks bipedal on its back legs, and can stand as much as 13 feet tall.
So a mix of a seal, dinosaur, and bird. That is... I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised things like this would exist, because, we're going to mention this animal a lot, but, a platypus is weird.
Yeah.
And platypus is real, so, why wouldn't these things be?
And that was, one of the reasons why Europeans, when they heard about this thing, they didn't doubt it straight away, because there are already so many strange animals here.
Yes.
They were like, well, what's one more?
Yeah, so another weird thing. Great. Fantastic. So, in 1846, in Murrumbidgee, there was a strange skull found, and a nearby huge creature is found basking in the sun. Was this the one
Yeah,
from
this is
Customs
one
House?
of Customs House.
Yeah. It's the massive platypus. And 3 men in a boat tried to catch it and swam away. So, this is
I can't find much on this thing. So, it does seem that as it says there, it drew a large crowd because it was how big it was. But it was near the Melbourne Customs House, which sounds pretty middle of the city-ish.
Yeah, our Customs House is kind of in the middle of the city, so
it
makes sense.
I'm surprised there's not that much on that thing. But it seems to have been a historical event that happened. And forgotten just as quickly as a lot of these strange events usually are.
Yeah. But to do with the strange skull they found, they discovered later that it was probably a deformed calf. So I do know that there were 2 skulls that were claimed to be Bunyip skulls. One ended up being a deformed camel skull, and one was a deformed calf, because they've got this skull and it's got one massive eye hole. And I think that's the camel one. And they had it in museums and things. I think it might still be in the Australian Museum at this point in Sydney. And, people go there and tell their stories about bunyips that they've seen and things. It's not isolated. This stuff isn't isolated incidences.
Yeah, the skulls that were taken there actually, they weren't, obviously, they weren't a strange creature called a bunyip now. But when other people saw them, people who were on homesteads and things out west came to see it, and they shared their own stories. This caused a lot more people talking about bunyips and what they look like and their experiences. So it was seen more and more and more and more as something that was real and something that was here, and something we might have to deal with. Yes.
This is not just some guy in the middle of nowhere going, this is this. And it was oh no, there's actually lots of them. So one I found, or we both actually found this one, was the Brommelton case. So there was a piece in the paper, the Moreton Bay Courier, on the 9th of February 1850, about a strange creature on the Brommelton property. So there was a woman, she went down to the lagoon and she saw this weird creature. So she said the head appeared to be long, elongated and flattened like the bill of a platypus. The body, from the place where it joined the head to about 5 feet backwards, seemed like that of a gigantic eel, being of about the ordinary thickness of a man's body. Oh my gosh, reading this is painful.
One of those oarfish.
Yeah.
Have you seen the, is that what they were? Oarfish? I think I showed you guys that once on YouTube.
Oh, yes. Yes, the big oarfish, yes.
Yeah, they're massive fish, long, can be about 30 feet long, and they're about as thick as a man's torso. And they live usually deep sea, but sometimes they come up. They usually drop their tails and then come up at the surface for some reason.
Yeah, you can only find them without tails. It's so weird. And it's like, oh, if they can't live with their tails, they probably just die and just go, I'm just going to go upstairs now. And just, that's where they go.
But they are massive things.
They're huge. So this one had, beyond its like neck or whatever it was of much larger apparent size, having the appearance of being coiled into innumerable folds. Beyond these coils was what seemed to be the tail of the animal, which had somewhat the shape of the tail of a fish, but is described as having the semi-transparent appearance of a bladder.
I'm not really sure what that means.
Is it like a see-through tail? Or is it like, it's like this flat area that's like, is it a stomach? Is it like another organ? Or...
It sounds like it was like almost like a... Like, it almost seemed that other stuff was more like hairy.
And then that
part was just didn't have any hair on it.
Which, I mean, might make sense if you've got something that swims.
Yeah.
Because you'd want to keep your body warm, but your tail needs to actually do tail stuff.
Again, talking about a platypus, platypus has a hairless tail, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
or beavers.
It's feet of hair as well.
Don't beavers have hairless tails? They make the dams? I might just be thinking a cartoon version of beavers. They've got like their body and their tails.
Their tails do look pretty weird.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm going to try
and find that
out. The head was small and narrow in proportion to the size of its body, was furnished with what seemed to be 2 horns, which were quite white. Under the circumstances, it was, of course, difficult to accurately judge the whole length of the animal, but by comparison with other objects, it is supposed that the parts visible above the water might have been 30 feet in extent. That's a big animal.
It's a very big animal.
So she sees this thing, runs off, gets like someone else that was living in the house and a servant, and they went back and they saw the tail end of it disappearing into the water. And so she's obviously gone and told her husband, and it's gone to the paper, and then they have found that it's everyone in the town has seen that one. It's like people know about it. It's not just like this weird thing. That lives in the lake.
And the Aboriginals of the area were, again, they didn't want to go into the lagoon because of the monster that they thought was there.
Yeah. So the Aboriginals had previously been known to not go near that lake. They're like, we don't touch that lake.
Evil spirits.
Evil spirits. So that one was amazing. But it does say at the end that whatever may be the natural character and attributes of this extraordinary animal, we have some hopes of their being shortly made known, for we are informed that a regular crusade is being organised against it, and every preparation made to secure it, if possible, dead or alive. We shall not fail to lay before our readers any further particulars that may be gathered upon this interesting subject. And then nothing. So I assume it failed.
Yes, couldn't find anything afterwards.
Couldn't find it. But so that was in the paper, and it was like this massive thing, and that was the entire town. You can actually go to that lake still, and I think they still tell you the story about it there, because it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened to that town.
And there's a racetrack nearby. And there's like a little plug of the racetrack about the Brompton Bunyip thing.
So, and the next one, that's from 1851. So, like, the late 18... Like, any time between, like, the 1830s, 1840s, and 1850s, this was just the biggest thing.
This was, one of the main things people were talking about, it seems.
Yeah, just those, like, 20 years was just like, this is it. So, the next one was the... I can't pronounce that.
Chalicum?
Yeah, the Chalicum Bunyip.
So there's just an outline that the Aboriginals had made on the edge of a creek near a place called Ararat of a bunyip that the natives had managed to kill at some point in time. So they came back every year or so to redo the outline to keep it fresh.
Well, it's like a memorial.
Yeah.
Because they were very much against killing them.
They were very afraid of killing them, but this particular bunyip attacked a man on the side of the river, and there was another man with him who stabbed it repeatedly until it stopped moving. The man that attacked died. So I guess that in this particular instance, the bunyip attacked the man, so the other bunyips weren't going to take offense to its death.
Yes.
So they didn't worry about it too much. Although they started to drag it out of the water, make an outline of the creature, and maintain that outline for, well, an undetermined amount of time.
Yes.
We don't really know how long that was.
We don't really know. It's not there anymore. We know that. But it was about 28 feet long.
Yep, no, so the tail was 28 feet long.
That's big.
It seems to resemble a plesiosaur, so it had a long neck, a barrel body, and a long tail.
Oh, that's interesting. After European settlement of the area, grazing sheep destroyed the outline. That's so sad. So that's how we know it did. So at some point, the sheep ruined it.
Yeah, so there had been attempts to keep the sheep out of that area. So we have fences and stuff, but whatever happened...
if the sheep wants to go there, the sheep will go there.
The fences must have, gotten older, and the sheep got through, and they ended up destroying the outline.
So sad.
So it's not very good. And there were ways that, so actual information and the look of it, pictures of it are still around. But that's all I really have.
Yeah.
There were, as I say, there were attempts to preserve it, but that failed.
Yeah. Just shouldn't that sheep in the property. In 1857, there was Edwin Soquella, and he sketched bunyips while sketching the Murray River. And so the Murray River bunyip is a huge thing. There's actually currently an animatronic that you can pay like coins, and it comes out of the river, and it's like the bunyip, but Bert the bunyip, which I just think is
pretty cool.
The best thing. It is like, I don't actually think I'd want to see it in person. I've seen photos of it. I'm like, that's slightly horrifying. Like, I don't think I'd actually want to see it in person, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
So
he saw about 5 of them. They range from 5 to 15 feet long, and he described it as a mix between a mole and a sea serpent. There's some of the large freshwater seals. They apparently had pelican pouches and a swan-like neck.
Oh, he wrote a letter denying he had called them bunyips or that they had swan-like necks. I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
Yeah.
But his drawings are lost. But recreation. Tentacles and legs and...
I saw a picture. It claimed that was one of his... That was based on his...
original drawings.
His drawings. And it was a bizarre looking thing with tentacles and legs and big staring eyes. But that doesn't mesh with what his description of it was. So I'm not sure if that's really...
Or did he actually see something maybe, and then people mocked him for it, and he's like, I take it all back. Which, I mean, it was 1857.
That kind of sounds like... But yeah, anyway, we don't know. He said they didn't, so... He said they did not, so I guess he didn't say they had swan-like necks.
So,
but that means they did say they were like a mix between a mole and a sea serpent.
So it was something. He saw something. We don't know what it is. So there's a few theories of what bunyips could be. We mentioned before the Dipleurodon. Was that the right? Or did I say the wrong word?
Dipleurodon is another aquatic animal.
Another aquatic animal.
Diprotodon.
Diprotodon. See, I'm just getting my.
So the giant marsupial creature. Size of a rhino.
So there's the theories that it could be leftover ones of like some sort of leftover dying out. Yeah,
so we assume that Diprotodon was more of a terrestrial animal, but it could have been more like a hippo and stayed in the water most of the time.
Yeah, I mean it's very hot here, so I can understand just wanting to sit in the water all the time. So,
and also marsupial lions, who actually fought on their hind legs.
Oh, they did.
So they got up and, kind of like a kangaroo, I guess, and bit and fought and stuff.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of things. So there is a story that could be a leftover of, the megafauna and things we had, considering that was a thing. And
another one is that it's of seals. They went too far upriver, and the inland tribes saw the seals and weren't sure what they were when these stories started happening about them.
And seals can get pretty big. Like, I mean, not 30 feet big, but they can get pretty big. And they can be quite scary when they want to be. Like I've been to SeaWorld, and the seals there are quite tame and things, and they're nice. But they're like the size of a person. And if you had a wild one that was cranky, like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
So if he's like, I'm in the wrong spot, help me. I'm just cranky about that. That makes sense.
And of course, we've already talked about the possibility that the bunyip is the Aboriginal version of a drop bear. Mm-hmm. So Europeans got freaked out about noises or whatever they're freaking out about, and Aboriginals they asked about it just built up on their fears to have a laugh at them, which, is definitely a possibility.
It's definitely a possibility. The other one we were talking about just before we actually started this was that it could be like the giant platypus or something like that. Like Platypus Godzilla.
We keep talking about, they keep saying that it had this like a platypus, or was massive platypus, or if you think about what a mole looks like and a platypus looks like, there's even similarities there. So there's a possibility that was some sort of like not an ancestor, a cousin of the platypus that was much bigger and more like maybe fill the niche of the crocodile down south.
And the older fossils we found of the giant platypus and things do have teeth, and some of them have tusks. Do they? Or like something similar? Oh no, that was
my idea. That was my maybe those teeth turned into tusks as they went along.
Yeah. So it's like there's a few reasons what it would be, but you had a few really good theories because I was listening to them for ages. I was like, oh, tell me more.
I think my main one was the giant predatory platypus.
Yeah.
So it's like a platypus that is definitely a similar shape and hunting strategy as a crocodile. Yeah. If you think about a predatory water-dwelling monitoring, that fits the bill pretty well.
Yeah. It would make sense because platypuses do live in swamps and lakes and billabongs and things like that.
Yeah, they all do those sort of things. And
they might be the size of a house cat, but they have the attitude of a lion, if you want to go with the analogy. Did you know platypuses have poisonous spines on their hind legs? They look like these little cool weird things. No, they can poison you. And everything in Australia wants to kill you.
There's even a thing that they could see underwater. It seems that the older platypus could see in the water, but our modern platypus closes its eyes and has electro sensors in its beak that it uses to hunt underwater.
And they glow in the black light too.
Yeah.
We found this out recently. This is one of the things I would love to explore one day, is the whole fact that there are entire species of animals and niches of animals that glow under black light. For what reason?
So that was discovered only about 2020 or so.
Yeah, because it was fascinating. So it's not like there aren't weird things in Australia that could have evolved similarly or alongside or not died out as fast as we thought. To this day, people still see or claim to see Tasmanian tigers, which are thought to have been extinct since the early 1900s. People, there's videos of black panthers down south.
Yeah, black cats.
Big black cats. There's things that we don't see or we don't know about because, Australia, we have a lot of very dense populations around the coastlines because that's the most livable area. But Australia is largely just bushland and desert. We have massive cattle stations because you really can't do anything else with our land. And
sometimes you can't even do that with it.
So sometimes you can't even do that. It's that Australia is this hugely wild place. And it's not like America where you can just drive through the center of it. Like, you would legitimately die because it's just such a harsh country. And so there's so much stuff that we can't see or we don't see. And there's a lot of Aboriginal sacred sites and stuff that you respectfully don't go in and things. And there's a lot of places we don't know.
Anyway.
So it's one of those big mysteries of whether it was actually something people saw in the 1800s or whether it's some misbelief.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, so we don't... It's kind of like a flash in the pan sort of thing, I guess. That sort of... There's always been the shadow of it in Australian culture of what the bunyip was, and it's almost like a kind of a joke now, like the was it Bert the Bunyip?
Yeah, Bert the Bunyip.
I think they've made children's cartoons about bunyips.
I always thought bunyips looked like there's the kids' book where the wild things are. Because bunyips always made. I always thought they looked like that because it was like, and there is a book, a children's book, a bunyip children's book, and it's like has this head of a bird and like this like weird body and like it's like a patchwork animal. And it's always been there. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if I asked my kids, like, oh, what is bunyip? They probably would know because it's been part of popular culture for, well, now hundreds of years.
Or they probably just make something up.
Or they probably made something up.
Which seems to be a pretty regular thing.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this, and we wish everyone a happy Australia Day, which is coming up.
Yeah.
And
Australia Day.
We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to The Spooky Window. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Spooky Window. If you have any comments or suggestions or anything, we would love to hear from you. Until then, have a great day, happy listening, and we hope to hear from you again soon.